Hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar. I am Lauren Park, and I am a speaker of this webinar today. So, before we start the session, I want to say thank you to FKCCI to inviting me this webinar, this event, and giving me this opportunity to talk about how to work with the people from different cultures. As I already mentioned, my name is Lauren Park, and I am working at RDI Worldwide as a HR project manager. So before we start the session, I would like to introduce our company a little bit. So RDI Worldwide is the HR consultancy company based in Korea. We are focusing on three main areas, which is performance management, leadership development, and talent acquisition. We are providing workshop and training to people to understand their employee better and helping people to work more effectively and efficiently. Also, we are trying to helping people to find best talent in right position. So please visit our website, and if you find some interesting position, please send us the resume so we can review for you. So now let's look into today's topic. So today I'm gonna talk about why is the culture important for job seekers, and three tips for you to think about work with the people from different cultures and how they can be successful in a multicultural environment. So what is cultures? So this is one of the Dutch psychologists defined that culture is the collective programming of the mind, which is distinguish the member of one category of people from others. So someone can thinking that culture can be nationality or culture can be food or languages as well. So here's some element of the cultures. So languages, symbols, religions, value, norms, and artifacts. So those kind of the element combine together and create the culture and in different countries as well. So it's important to know if you want to work in the people from different cultures. Otherwise, you may face some challenges when you are working with the multinational teams. So you can facing on language barriers, lifestyle difference in work norms behaviors. So language barriers. If you cannot really understand their languages, you may feel you have difficulty to communicate with them. And lifestyle difference in Korea, the lunchtime, it's more gathering time. So you just go other people and having lunch together and just spend time with them. But in Western or some different culture have its more personal time. So they just grab whatever they want and go to the park or go to somewhere and enjoy their lunch alone and spend time themselves so they can refresh and chill out. And difference in work norms and behaviors. Like in Korea, when you are start at work on the first time, there's a someone to help you to teach you what you need to do today, tomorrow, and next day. So they gonna teach you step by step. But the other side of the work, like work culture, they have it's your responsibility to looking after yourself. So it's your responsibility to decide it yourself as well. So you might be facing on some difference between that. Then someone can thinking that if we know the languages, we can overcome the culture difference. Yes or no? The answer can be yes and no as well. So if you can speak the languages, it's a big benefit for you to communicate and interact with them. But you may not really understand the true meaning of behind the sentence. So here's an example of we can facing on they are missing true meaning of the sentence behind the sentence. So even she can understand the language, she cannot really understand what exactly they are saying. So like even she's understand the meaning of the bless you, but she cannot really get it why they are saying that. So she's like, for what? So here's some historical behind that. In 14th century, there was pandemic spread out Europe. So same as this situation, this day situation, which is called Black Death at that time. I think some of you guys may heard that before, Black Death. So Black Death killed over 20 million of European around that time. So it's so scary disease, and many people were scared about it. But the main symptom of the Black Death was sneezing. So if someone is sneezing, people say to person, God bless you, which means they hope a person can protect from death. So we need to know these kind of things if you want to understand truly of the cultures. So here's tip for you to think about if you want to work with people from different cultures. Managing yourself, asking questions, and being assertive, not aggressive. Managing yourself. I think this is the one of the common soft skill that we can describe ourselves on our resume. So I also can write down I am good at time management and I can manage myself well. But when I have the experience, there was some behind meaning of the managing yourself in different cultural environment. There's a story behind. So I went to Australia when I was 17 years old. So at the time, I don't really have any experience of work. So but I want to be professional in somehow. So I got advice from my friends, mostly Korean friends, and those of people just tell me that common thing was you try to show passion of work to your manager on your first day. So I start the shift at 6 a.m. in Australia, one of the hotel. And at the restaurant, I was just working, start the work. And then one of the senior colleague just told me that, oh, you can folding a napkin. So I start the folding the napkin. So folding. And then after that, the senior member disappeared. But I expected she will tell me what I need to do the next. But she wasn't there. So it's my responsibility to looking after other people and looking around that and to figure out what I need to do. So I just keep look other people and follow them. So set up the table and then just helping other people serving a guest. So I was working very hard. I was working until 6 p.m. And then at 6 p.m. they have two different thoughts in my mind, which is first one was, should I ask my manager what time my shift will be end? And in other hand, should I just keep working until my manager just tell me to go home? So if you are in this situation, which one do you want to choose? For me, I choose the second one, which is I decide to work until my manager tell me to go home. The reason was because of my friend asked me to give your passion of the work to your manager. So try to show your passion of the work to your manager. So I was working, and around that time, my manager was asking me, "How's your day going?" And then I just reply her, "I'm good, but a bit tired." So after I say that, she just sent me the break. So after I just take some break and come back to work and just keep working until 10 p.m. So I was working 16 hours straight forward. It's made me so tired. So I need to make big decision myself. So I just go to my manager and tell her what time my shift will be end. What time can I go home? And her response made me very, very shocked because she asked me back why you're still here. That's what I didn't really expect it because I thought she might be say, we are busy, so we can't let you home earlier. Sorry for that. So you can go home now. I expect those kind of the answer from her, but she just tell me why you are still here. So I just tell her because you didn't ask me to go home, so I didn't go. And after I say to her, she was very shocked as well. So during the conversation, both of us are very shocked because of the different reason. So after this happened, the conversation happened, my manager teach me some meaning of the managing yourself in Australia. So managers say it's my responsibility to take care of myself and it's my responsibility to managing my task as well and time as well. So of course they're gonna teach me the basic stuff, what I need to do on my duty, but it's my responsibility to reorganize it and managing and finish the task on during my shift. So through this experience, I learned it, the true meaning of managing yourself in Australia. So here's a framework can help us to understand the different way of communicate with the different cultures. So this framework developed by American cross-culture researcher Andrew Ho, which is called high contact, low contact cultures. So high contact cultures people are speaking their message indirectly. So they are using many nonverbal elements such as voice tone, facial impression, gesture, and eye movement. So those are the features can find someone from Japan, Korea, China, or Arab. And the other hand is low contact cultures. So low contact cultures are speaking directly, so their message can be clear and simple, and they are independent and individualism. So they are thinking that everyone have responsibility from themselves. So those kind of features, we can find someone from North America, UK, and Europe. So are you have you ever heard of this kind of framework before? For me, I didn't know when I was in Australia. So if I know this framework before when I talk to my manager, it's helped me to easy to talk to her. But when you think back to my story at 6 p.m., my manager asked me how was your day, and I just say to her, I'm good and I'm tired. So in my cases, I try to using high contact culture to speak to my Australian manager. So in sentence of the I'm tired, I have some behind meaning behind that. So I don't want to say directly to her, I want to go home, but I just using I'm tired, but which means I want to go home and please tell me to go home. That was my behind meaning. But she's from Australia, so she's more familiar with the low contact cultures. So she cannot really get my point. So there have some misunderstanding during that time. So if you want to work with the people from different culture, you might be find some different point, and then maybe you can facing some misunderstanding messages. So if you are facing on those kind of situation, what do you want to do? Are you going to just try to figure out yourself and then working same as me until 16 hours, or what do you want to do? So there's a second point for you to think about is asking the question. Asking the question is someone can say, that's easy. I can easily ask question to someone, but someone can say, I'm not really familiar or have comfortable to asking the question. So there are some images you may seen before or you may have experienced in working in Korean society. So some employee asked the question to their manager, asked the question, and then the manager replied, employee, why you didn't know until now? And so they just decided, okay, then I'm not going to ask question anymore. Then if something happened, the manager just say back to employee, why you need to ask why you didn't ask the question? You should ask the question. So this is one of the dilemma. Maybe you can see it before, or you will face this situation in the futures. So here's some background you can understand. So these images can show us classroom classroom layout by different countries. So left hand side is European classroom layout, and right hand side is Korean classroom layout. So when you see the left hand side, you can see teacher is moving around and number of students are much smaller than Korean classroom. And the students are sitting very close with other people. And then the design of the setup is it's a friendly way to communicate with other people and discuss with other people. But when you see the right hand side, the Korean classroom layout, it's just one way setup. So the desk is just lying up on one direction to face to the teacher, and the teacher is stand in front of his desk. So he's not really moving around. And also they have a lot of people compared than European classroom. So if someone asks a question in Korean classroom, they need to deal with so many stress. Like they literally need to raise their hand and ask the question, and they need to make interaction with teacher to notice that I have question to you, and they need to deal with the stress, the attention from others when they're raising their hand. So those kind of the background help. It can be affect to people who is not familiar with the question, who is not really feel comfortable with asking the question. So left hand side images is two-way communication. So student can communicate with other student and student can communicate with teachers. But in Korean right hand side one, it's just one way of communication. Only teacher just speak to student. So students' responsibility is just only listen and learn it themselves. But in the left-hand side European classroom, it's they have responsibility to communicate with other people because they are sitting next to each other. So and teacher will be just keep just walking around and asking the question, what's your ideas, what's your opinion? So they learn it, they have responsibility to sharing their thoughts and ideas. So as I already mentioned, those different culture background can create difference with asking the question, which is familiar or not, and feel comfortable with not. So I know if you are growing up with the right hand side background, it's gonna be difficult for you to asking the question at the first time. But if you're working with the Western culture people, they are already familiar with those kind of situation, and their society and their working environment is encouraging people to asking the question. So don't be afraid to asking the question. You should be fine. So you can just ask lots of questions your manager and colleague. So let's look into other point, which is being assertive. Do you know what means of the assertive? Or do you know how can we be the assertive? So being assertive is defined by one of the American psychologists, Andrew Salter. He defined that assertive is being able to stand up for your own or others people's right in a calm and positive way without being either aggressive or passively or to accept the wrong things. So, what does it mean by assertive, aggressive, and passive? So, here's some scale for us to identify the way of communicating with other by behaviors. So, left hand side, they have assert passive, and right hand side is aggressive. And middle between and making a balance is assertive. So passive is like being submissive, so they can just let other people to win. So they just choose to lose themselves. But aggressive is just all by me only. So they can be selfish and they try to dominate other people to make them win themselves. But the middle of the balance is assertive. So assertive is like trying to make win-win situation most of the time. So being assertive, people are proactive, still in a calm and positive way. Then how can you be assertive person? So here's some characteristic that describe being assertive person. Being open in expressing ideas, thoughts, and feeling, and encouraging others to do the same. Treating everyone equally, being able to admit mistake and apologies. Expressing appreciation to others who are doing good job so they can happy for other people's someone's success. And accepting responsibility and not being afraid to make a decision. So this day, employer prefer to assertive person because they are not afraid to fail of the making mistake, which means they will be able to proactive with trying new strategy at workplace. So as we look into the culture is important, and there are some tips for you to think about when you're working with a foreign company or different cultures. Then now we are looking into how can we be success to work with different cultures. There are some points for you to think about yourself. Are you a person of thirsty for adventure or observe without judgment, passion for diversity, or being open mind for new things or global savvy? So thirsty of adventure is can you handle a risk and uncertainty? So how often are you trying to having new culture food? So new food that you're not really familiar. Such as it can be you can try the raw octopus. So those are kind of thing you can think about and try. And observing without judgment is can you empathize it and understand things you don't agree without perceiving judgment? So can you listen someone that you are not really agree with that? So you can still listen and understand their point, what is the point of their argument. So you need to think about it. You are the person like that. And then passion for diversity. So are you interested with talk with someone who is not same as you? So for example, if you go someone's wedding and then one of the foreigner just sit next to you, and then do you have feeling or are you interested with talking with him or her who is not same as you? And the other thing is global savvy. So how much do you know about the global economy? Are you often looking into the economy news or politics news? Do you know what's going on in China? or Europe, America. So those kind of thing we should try to learn about and try to get curious about to overcome the culture difference. So today we look into why culture is important. Because if you don't really understand, we may not able to find and understand the true meaning behind the sentence. Else, also, I pointed out three different points that you can think about if you want to work in people from other culture. So managing yourself, asking question, being assertive, not aggressive. And the last point was how can we overcome culture difference in workplace? So we culture is important, and culture difference can be difficult for you to think about, but there's the way we can overcome those kind of things. So this is the end of session today and Q&A. If you have any question during the presentation, Q&A Q&A session will be conducted in RDI booth. Our principal consultant and CEO will be there to answer your question. So please feel free to visit our RDI booth. And then I let you guys please don't be afraid to asking the question. So I hope you can enjoy my session and then you find some interesting topic during my session. And thank you for attending to my webinar and have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Laureen, for this very insightful seminar. I hope it was a very useful insight for the participants. So if you have questions, yeah, as Laureen said, you can go on RDI's booth and connect with them. We are reaching the end of this event, but before yes, I have a question on the chat. Do we click on RDI Worldwide now to ask question? Yes, you can go on their booths. Yeah, on the left side, you have the list of booths. You can go on RDI. And you have Gordon interacting with you. You can join on the Q&A table on their table. We're gonna have so we have a few agenda left. So there's still some companies presentation going on. So now there's Mazar doing a presentation at their booth, so you can check them out. We will also have last but not least in our lounge we have a session with a young professional. Korean professionals who got a diploma in France, and they're gonna give a testimony from 5 to 6 p.m. So this is gonna be in the lounge space on the left part of this event, and you can join on the alumni table. We will have Jin Young Park, researcher at Air Liquide Korea, Song Young Kim, policy officer at the delegation of the European Union to the Republic of Korea, and Yeonwoo Lee, ESG specialist at the GIC. So yeah, you can connect with them and hear about their testimony there at 5 p.m. I'm gonna wrap it up. Thank you a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laureen, and see you soon.
Thank you. See you soon.